I hope everybody can see my screen.
Yes, sir, we can.
Yeah. Good evening, and welcome all for this very brief insight about medical device regulation, MDR, the European EU MDR, and overview about MDSAP requirements. So the presentation is going to be very going to touch about on key points in to have a quality management system in compliance with 13485. So if you look at from the European perspective under MDR, the requirements in the MDR has come up in terms of having distributors. There are certain requirements which are there in terms where the distribution chain needs to have some compliance towards regulation. And most of the companies, you partner with the distributors. So this is one way in which you can start looking at with your distribution partners to go in for 13485 and also to implement the regulatory requirements which are which they represent as an extended arm in the market for you. So the main benefits is it proves compliance with legal regulations. In some areas, some geographies, it is a legal requirement which they have made, and in some areas it comes through a regulatory framework. And it adopts a risk-based approach in terms of right from defining your quality system processes and also in terms of into your development or the product lifecycle processes, and brings in transparency and consistency within your processes. So let us CE marking. The main focus we will be looking at in terms of the European MDR requirements and what significant changes which has been there as compared to the MDD. So that is what we will be touching upon in this topic. So CE marking is certification that indicates conformity with health, safety, and environmental protection standards for protocols for products sold within European Economic Area. So CE marking is applicable not only for medical, for many other products. So there are different directives which are mandated as rules or law within the European member states. The manufacturer need to demonstrate compliance to the applicable directives to ensure the product is safe and effective and performs the way what the product is intended for, and the performance claims have been done by the manufacturer. So this is what CE marking means. CE marking, specifically when it comes to medical, you would have seen CE mark without number and CE mark with number. So the difference is depending on the product risk categorization, the assessment methods are different. So CE with a numeric 4-digit number, if you see that means there is a notified body involved in terms of assessing the product and the process compliance, and they grant the certificate to the manufacturer, and based on that they apply the CE mark on the product with the identification of the notified body who had given the approval. So just a brief, this new European Medical Device Regulation 2017-745 has been adopted by the European Parliament on 5th of April and it has to be enforced from 25th of May 2017 and is replacing the directive MDD. So the new MDR was in force legally from 2017 May itself. But there was a transition period which was given by law, by the European Commission themselves. 3 years transition period was given. The 3-year transition period was supposed to get over in May 2020. Due to this pandemic situation, they have voted to extend this by 1 more year. So that means the validity of MDD is, well, the MDD is no more a legal document or no more an regulation within the Europe Union from May 2021 onwards. So that means the notified bodies cannot issue certificates under MDD beyond 25th of May 2021. So this directive, the MDR, is replacing Medical Device Directive and Active Implantable Medical Device Directive. So both the requirements of active implantable are brought in into this one regulation. So, and it is called as Medical Device Regulation. So this is the transition timeline which it is being published. So 2017, the regulation got published in 2017, and implementation, application and implementation, it has to be there from 26th May 2020, and due to pandemic, the revised implementation is from 26th May 2021. Whatever the certificates under MDD, what will happen to those MDD certificates after 2021 May? So they have given a provision in the regulation itself. The certificates, whatever it has been issued with a validity, where the validity has been given till 2024. So the certificates issued under MDD can be issued for a maximum duration of 5 years, and with the 20 expiry no later than 26th May 2044. After issue duration of the regulation to place the product into the market for 1 year. What this placing the product in the market means is the product need to be put in use before 26th May 2025. That means if there is a product which needs installation, that installation activities need to be completed before 26th May 2025. So that is what the placing in market provision which has been given in the regulation. There are few significant things which has come into this regulation. It also covers products without an intended medical purpose. This is a tricky thing. There are products which needs to be looked with the same perspective of medical, but if you look at the intended purpose is not medical. So products without an intended medical purpose also are covered under this regulation. Products used for cleaning, disinfecting or sterilizing other medical devices, that is also covered. So the sterilizers, the sterilizing liquids, cleaning and disinfecting liquids, what and all it has been used, those things also get covered into this regulation. For purpose of control or support of conception, there is control of conception was covered in MDD itself, but the support of conception, which is new thing which are picked up into the whole healthcare, it has been introduced. Software used for any purpose covered under MDR. So softwares, there is a specific focus of focus given on the regulation for software, including software alone as a medical device, and softwares controlling the medical devices, how it needs to be classified. So all those things have been given. Of course, there is this Brexit impact which is there, so I'm not going to go in detail about that. So, as a manufacturer, what are all the things which you need to look at in terms of CE marking under MDR? So, this is the basic steps which has been put in. First, you need to have classify the medical
Muted.
Classifying the device, recognize the requirements of applicable standards and fulfill them. So, Europe Union under MDD, they had a list of standards called harmonized standards, which are voluntary in nature, and that is being given a status that gives presumption of conformity to the essential requirements which was there as a part of medical device directive. Similarly, though there is no published harmonized standard list under MDR, we hope that it will be anytime out soon. But there are certain MDCGs, they call it as MDCGs, that is a guidance sort of documents which are getting published and updated very frequently now. So there are standards which demonstrate state of the art for the product. So you need to identify them and then demonstrate compliance to that. And you need to construct the technical file which comprises the evidence of compliance to the essential requirements of the directive. So these essential requirements is nothing but I'll touch upon that. Essential requirements is provided in Annex 1 of the directive. In MDD, it was called as essential requirements. In the new regulation, it is called as general safety principles and requirements. So that is what it has been renamed. But the basic concept remains the same in terms of demonstrating safety, performance of the device, and effective performance of the device. So that is the basic underlying concept that remains the same. So depending on the classification of the device, you identify and select the notified body with whom you would like to work with and get your certification. You need to have an authorized European representative. If you are a legal manufacturer based out of European Union, you must have an authorized representative, irrespective whether you do a business within European Union or not, or irrespective to the class of the product, you need to have an authorized representative within the European Union. This is a regulatory requirement. Assessment by notified body will happen. So in order to have that assessment by notified body, you need to do the application, submit. Once commercials are all done, you need to submit the technical file. The technical file assessment will happen. Then the on-site audits will happen, and once everything is completed and closed down, you will be granted the certificate. Upon receipt of certificate, you are authorized to use the CE mark with the notified body number on the product and ship out. Subsequent to the certificate grant, there are requirements in terms of maintaining the certificate. So that will be coming under the surveillance assessment. And there is a heavy focus in terms of post-market surveillance requirements in the new regulation. So that is what it will be there in the MDR as well. So how it is different, MDD versus MDR? So MDD, the Medical Device Directive, had 23 articles and 11 annexes. So articles are the legal requirements, and annexes are the route to comply with the requirements. So that is how it is. Under MDR, there are 123 articles and there are 17 annexes. So you can see how detailed and elaborate this regulation is. So this is a gist of articles. I'm not going in detail about what those articles and all those stuffs. So this is just a gist where they have grouped it under chapters. 10 chapters. They have distributed these 123 articles. So first chapter has 4 articles which gives definitions and scope of the regulation. Articles 5 to 24, making available on market and putting into service of devices and obligations of economic operators, reprocessing, CE marking and free movement of products. Articles 25 to 34, identification and traceability, registration requirements, all those things have come in there. 35 to 50 are requirements related for articles for notified body. 51 to 60 are for classification and conformity assessment routes. 61 to 82, specific focus on clinical evaluation and clinical investigations. 83 to 100, post-market surveillance, vigilance and market surveillance. Further, it talks about in terms of cooperation between member states and data protection, confidentiality, and all those things. Annexures, 17 annexures. Annexures are pretty important one, because that is the one which is going to help in terms of demonstrating compliance. So Annex 1 is General Safety and Performance Requirement, more commonly known as GSPR. Annex 2 is Technical Documentation. Annexure 3 is on Post-Market Surveillance. Annexure 4, Declaration. CC mark of conformity, that is related to product without medical purpose. Information to be submitted upon registration of devices. So product registration, how you need to do and what information need to be given. Annexure 7 is for notified bodies. 8 is on classification rule. 9, 10, 11 is on conformity assessment routes. 12 is on certificate content. 13 is for custom-made devices. 14 is for clinical evaluation and post-market clinical follow-up. And 15, clinical investigations. 16 specifically for without an intended medical purpose. And last is a correlation table which is being provided. So I'll just briefly go through about the main headings, what is there in GSPR, that is the general safety and performance requirements. So earlier in a medical device directive, this was called as essential requirements. So which had 13 clauses. Here you will have 23 clauses. So first one, it is related to safety and performance, risk reduction, risk management system implementation, risk control measures, user error risk, performance during lifetime, design and manufacturing related to packaging, transport, storage, risk benefit over acceptable risk, and requirements for devices without a medical purpose, chemical, physical and biological properties requirements, infection, microbial contamination. So the specific things, if you have to look at over here, there are detailed requirements which have come up in terms of devices. So earlier, these requirements were being clubbed together or put into different form in essential requirements, which didn't bring out clarity. So now there is a lot of clarity and clear requirements given. Specifically, if you look at in terms of 17, electronic programmable systems and software. So this was one of the requirement under class 12 of essential requirements. Again, if you look at active devices and devices connected to them. So when a product, when it has to work as a system, including multiple accessories, may not be from the same manufacturer, be from different manufacturers. So how it works as a system. So that also is been specific focus have been given over there. Since it is clubbing with implantable devices, specific requirements for active implantable devices have come up. Protection against the risk posed by a medical device intended by manufacturer for use by layperson. So there are devices which have come with home use, and where the user doesn't have that much of exposure exposure or knowledge in terms of using the device. So in terms of those things, how to protect. So those requirements have also brought into the GSPR requirements. Label instructions, instructions for use, general information to be supplied, information general on the label, sterile package, what needs to be there, information on instructions for use. So I'll be going through a little bit more in terms of the requirements related to the labeling, what significant changes have come in, and information required, information for user, the user manual, whatever the document which is being supplied along with the product. So there are key changes which have come up with that. So I'll briefly walk you through on those changes. So this is a just, if you look at in class 23, I was mentioning it was in 13.1 in MDD, it has come to 23 over here. The critical thing over here, if you look at, is website also need to be kept updated. So that is also a significant interpretation which has come up now. So accompanied by the information to identify the device, identify the manufacturer, any safety and performance information to the user, and these information may appear on the device itself, on the packaging, or in the instructions for use. So when you look at product related information, where and all it is possible to be seen, that covers the website also. So that is important thing to be noted over here. So whatever you have seen in blue font, it's all the changes which is there with respect to MDR. So one thing, if you see, IFU shall be provided with devices. They have also given no need to provide it for class 1 and class 2A if used safely without such instructions. So if the device can be used without an instructions for use safely, there is no specific need to provide an IFU. So you need to run through your risk in terms of this and then have a clear assessment in terms of this. IFU may be provided in electronic format, and if it is given so in electronic format, there is a specific regulation 207 which was published in 2012, 207/2012, that needs to be complied with. That needs to be complied with when the information is given in electronic form. So use of internationally recognized symbols. Use of internationally recognized symbols. So any symbol or identification color shall conform to harmonized standards or common specifications. So if there are no standards or common specification exist, you can define. There is no harmonized standards or common specification exist. The symbols and colors shall be described in the documentation, shall be supplied with the device. So this is just an example of an label which is there in terms of the requirements. So name or trademark, trade name of the device, identification of the device, register trade name. So these are all the requirements which need to be appearing on the label. UDI details. So this is a specific requirements which have come up in the MDR, the Unique Device Identifier, UDI. Safe use, use by date, all those things which are all there in terms of the label requirements. So there are specific requirements which are there if the device contains or incorporates a medicinal substance, including human blood or plasma derivative, or tissue or cell derivatives of human origin or animal origin. You need to comply with a specific regulation which also indicates the requirements related to information to be provided in the label. So instructions for use. There are specific new requirements which have come up. So I've just touched upon only on the new requirements which are there in terms of instructions for use. So safety and clinical performance. So you need to give the safety and clinical performance information into the user manual. So information allowing the healthcare professional to verify if the device is suitable and select the corresponding software and accessories. So what type of accessory, what type of other interface which it can interface. So now all the devices with comes with multiple connectivity. So which type of connectivity? So all those things have to be specifically provided. Any requirements for special facilities or special training or particular qualifications of the device user and or other person. So these requirements have been brought in, which was not there explicitly stated in the MDD. Now it has come up in MDR. And if you can recollect, there is a standard for usability, right? 62366 or 60601-1-6, where it specifies that you need to define the user profile. So which will include any specific training or any specific qualified personnel to operate the device. All those things were there in that standard. Now it has been brought up as a part of the regulation itself to bring it into the instructions for use. Other requirements, preventive and regular maintenance methods need to be stated into the user manual. Identification of consumable components and how to replace them. So what are all the consumables and how to replace them? These information need to be provided. Methods for eliminating the risk encountered by persons involved in installing, calibrating or servicing. So whatever the risk associated with people who are involved in installation or calibrating the device or servicing the device, those things also need to be part of the documentation which is there along with the product. If it is reusable or to be re-sterilized by the manufacturer, by the user, validated method of re-sterilization appropriate to the member state or the member states in which the device has been placed in the market. So this need to be provided, and information shall be provided to identify when the device should be no longer be used. That means if it is a reusable device, how many times it can be reused, what are all the signs of degradation, and on seeing what indications they need to stop using the device. These information are critically to be provided in the instructions for use. So as you see, used by laypersons, circumstances in which the user should consult a healthcare professional. So all these things need to be provided. Important information here on point Z. Notice to the user and or patient that any serious incident that has occurred in relation to the device should be reported to the manufacturer and the competent authority of the member state. This is very important, and to the competent authority of the member state in which the user or the patient is established. So complaints, the user can, or which competent authority they need to report to based on their location. That information also need to be provided. And for devices including software, you need to provide in terms of network characteristics, security requirements, unauthorized access protection, everything you need to provide in terms of information for use along with the product. So the next topic what we will look at is technical documentation. So there is a specific annex which is given in terms of the technical documentation. So technical documentation, these are only 6 basic things which have been put. First chapter, what we are talking about is this device description and specification, including variants and accessories. So you need to clearly describe your device, including the variants and accessories, along with complete specifications. All these information need to be there. Then information to be supplied by the manufacturer, which is nothing but your labeling, information, instructions for use. All those aspects comes into chapter 2. Chapter 3 is related to your design and manufacturing information. Chapter 4 is GSPR checklist. Chapter 5 is your risk management, complete risk assessment, risk benefit assessment, risk management file. Then chapter 6 is your product verification and validation, how you have done your product verification and validation. There is a separate annex related to the clinical, so that also will go in as a part of the technical documentation. So that I'll come to that a little later. So section 1, what is it you need to provide in terms of device description and those details? First thing, general product description, intended use, intended users, intended purpose, patient population, principle of operation, all these details need to be there. So general product description, when you are providing this, you need to provide with your GMDN or the UMDNS. Along with that, it is a requirement which is to be provided along with the device description. Information to be supplied by manufacturer, that is label and instructions for use, complete set of labels, complete set of IFU, fulfill the chapter 3 of GSPR, that is nothing but that section 23 of GSPR requirements. The label and IFU are in the languages accepted in the member states where the device is envisaged to be sold. So you need to provide, if you are intending to sell in all the countries, then you need to have this in translated. So translated or a provision to have that translated. So those information also need to be provided. Design and manufacturing, complete design file, information on manufacturing processes, process validation, monitoring, final testing, where the design happens, where the manufacturing happens, who are all the suppliers, subcontractors, where and all the product is being made. All these details need to be provided, including the critical suppliers and what they are providing to you. This is GSPR checklist. This is a general safety and performance requirements for all those 23 requirements. So which need to be provided. The critical thing to note here is explanation as to why others do not apply. Whenever you have an unapplicable requirement within GSPR, you need to clearly explain why it is not applicable to you. And solutions applied to demonstrate compliance, harmonized standards or common specifications, what is being used to demonstrate compliance towards GSPR, that need to be provided. The other important thing what we have seen is they just give refer section so and so in the technical file, or refer so and so refer risk management file. Say for example, if in the requirement, if it is there, they'll say just refer risk management file, which is no longer acceptable. You need to provide a clear cross reference of the evidence within the file, or if it is outside the file of such, you need to provide including the revision control. So complete information need to be there about the reference document, which will demonstrate compliance to each of the GSPR requirements. Section 5 of the technical file, risk management and the risk benefit analysis. So you need to provide the complete risk management file, including the risk benefit analysis in compliance with ISO 14971:2012. Specific focus, Annex ZA, Annex ZA, ZB, ZC, whatever it is applicable depending on the nature of your product. That needs to be demonstrated, and complete file need to be provided, including verification and validation of risk mitigation activities. So the complete file of risk management demonstrating compliance to 14971 need to be provided. Section 6 on verification and validation. So what are all the directives and the standards and guidelines which you have applied for, and then verification and validation, which test labs which you have used, accreditation status of the test labs, that is also required now. Rationale for exclusion of test if it is not applicable, why you have done. Then clinical evaluation part of your product validation, clinical evaluation plan, evaluation report, PMCF, all those things which will come in terms of verification and validation. There is a separate annex given in the regulation in terms of post-market surveillance. So the requirements are clearly given there. PMS plan for each product or family of products based on the device risk. You need to have a PMS plan, PMCF plan, or justification if PMCF is not applicable. You need to provide PMS report or a PSUR depending on the class of your device. So this is just what is that summary which is there in terms of post-market surveillance and the expected frequencies. So class 1, you need to have a post-market surveillance report. So you can define when it is necessary. Class 2A, periodic safety update report, that is PSUR, is required when necessary, at least every 2 years, minimum every 2 years, or as and when you feel required. So, but every 2 years is mandatory. Class 2B, class 3, and implantable products under class 2A or class 3. So it is required annually. So it is to be part of Annex 2 and Annex 3. Annex 2 is technical file. Annex 3 is your post-market activities in the technical file. So you need to make this available to the notified body for class 2A, class 2B. And for up to class 2B, you make available to the competent authority upon request. For implantable category of class 2B products or class 3 product, you need to submit electronically to the notified body. And the notified body reviews and adds evaluation shall be made and made available to the competent authority. So when you submit to a notified body about this PSUR annually for a class 2B implantable device or a class 3 device, the notified body need to evaluate that report and submit our notified body assessment report to the competent authority. So that is the requirements which have come up in terms of post-market surveillance activities. So the medical device regulation on the whole gives larger stress in terms of post-market activities and tightening up in terms of the post-market surveillance and reporting and making it more and more open and transparent. So UDI, this is unique device identifier requirements have been put into the regulation. Manufacturers who are exporting products to the US, they are quite familiar with this requirements in terms of UDI. So Annex 6 of the directive gives the requirements related to the UDI. So UDI is required, and what are all the constituents of the UDI is been specified in that annex. So this is basically requirements which is capturing. So one basic UDI DI. DI is device identifier, right? So basic one UDI DI is for devices for same category with same intended purpose, risk class, essential design and manufacturing characteristics. So if it is all having the same, then you can have it with one UDI. One UDI DI. And the CE certificates will have the UDI number, UDI label, UDI pattern also put into the certificates, and also under the declaration of conformity it is required, and it is also to be put on your technical file and summary of safety and clinical performances. So that is all required to be there. Device classification. So there are significant changes which are come up in the device classification, the way we need to look at and classify the device. So some devices which are already under MDD, certified under MDD, some devices may go on for a reclassification where it will go on for a different class altogether. So MDD had 18 rules under Annex 9 for classification, whereas MDR has 22 rules. So some new rules are related to software, rules related to devices using nanomaterial, invasive devices intended to administer medicinal products by inhalation, devices composed of substances intended to be introduced into the human body via body orifice that are absorbed by or absorbed locally, then active therapeutic devices with integrated diagnostic function. So you need to do the classification as per the Article 51. four type of class: class 1, class 2A, class 2B, and class 3, based on the intended purpose and the inherent risk of the use of the device. So the main considerations, it remains the same in terms of duration of contact with patient, invasiveness, whether it is natural through invasive device or surgically invasive, implant device, standalone or combination device. So all these things are put in as part of rules for classification. So rule 1 to 4 talks about non-invasive devices. Rule 5 to 8 is for invasive devices. Rule 9 to 13 is for active devices. to 22 is for special rules. That is the distribution in MDR, what it is there in terms of classification rules. So risk-based classification, class 1 to class 1 low risk, class 1 specific, that is low medium. So I will come to that. Then class 2A, class 2B, and class 3. So class 1 specific low medium is class 1 sterile, class 1 measurable, device with measuring functions. And the new one which is getting introduced into this is class 1 reusable devices. So this also comes under this low medium risk category. So whatever it is highlighted in yellow are the changes which has come up from MDD to MDR. So this is what the change which has come up. So they have included, except for blood bags are to be classified under class 2B, which was there. And here if you look at into the rule, all non-invasive devices intended for channeling or storing blood, body liquids, storage of cells also have been introduced into this as a specific item there. So here also the cells have come in. So the other thing which you see here is all non-invasive devices consisting of substance or a mixture of substances intended to be used in vitro in direct contact with human cells, tissues, or organs taken from the human body, or used with in vitro with human embryos before their implantation or administration into the body are classified as class 3. So this is a new thing which has come up in MDR. Invasive devices coming into contact with injured mucous membrane, that is an introduction which has been done in MDR now. So this one has been put all invasive devices with respect to body orifice other than surgically invasive devices intended for connection to a class 2A, 2B or class 3 device are classified as class 2A. So this is an important one in terms of accessories which is being used for the typical example if you take is an endoscope probe which goes in invasive, that's an invasive device. So those things are come up with a specific clarification which they have put in over here. Earlier it was stated as higher class, now it has been stated very clearly. In terms of invasive devices, there is a clarification which has been brought in. Heart or of central circulatory system has been put together, and all those things have been put under class 3 classification. Those products have been put under class 3. Coming in contact with the heart or central circulatory system have been put under class 3. Again, in terms of devices coming in direct contact with the heart, that has been put over here. This is a new introduced because of the clubbing of active implantable. So when you look at invasive devices for long-term use, active implantable devices or their accessories are classified in class 3. Breast implants, surgical meshes, those things are all coming under class 3. So spinal, for orthopedic implants, that has been clearly put in over here, total or partial joint replacement are class 3. So only exception is the screws used for that, screws, wedges, plates and instruments used for that has been exempted under class 3. Those things will come under 2B. Spinal disc replacement implants are coming under class 3, which are coming in direct contact with the spinal column. That comes under class 3. For active devices, so the change here is devices intended for emitting ionizing radiation for therapeutic purpose, including devices. You can see how it has been giving stress in terms of software, including devices which control or monitor such devices or influence the performance, are classified under class 2B. So it clearly gives that. So again, all active devices intended for controlling, monitoring, or influencing the performance of active implantable devices are all again class 3. So rule 11, specific for software. Software intended to provide information which is used to take decision with diagnosis or therapeutic purpose is classified as class 2A, except if such decisions have an impact that may cause death or irreversible deterioration of a person's state of health, in which case it goes to class 3. Or if it is going to cause a serious deterioration, then it is class 2B. Software intended to monitor physiological processes are classified under class 2A, except if it is intended for vital physiological parameters, it is class 2B. All other software are classified under class 1. So this is a new rule which is clearly defined for softwares. So again, rule 16, they include sterilizing of medical devices. So devices coming under sterilizing for medical devices, that has also been introduced here. Nanomaterial, that is rule 19. Administering medicinal product for inhalation, that is rule 20, which has been introduced. Active therapeutic devices with an intended or incorporated diagnostic function, which significantly determines the patient management by device. So we see this type of combination device where it also do a therapeutic function and also have some diagnostic features also. So those devices, there is a specific rule which have been covered. So just examples for classification: class 1 sterile, class 1 measuring, class 1 reusable, class 2A, class 2B, and class 3. So these are all just some examples of products coming under those various classes. Excuse me. Clinical evaluation. Clinical sorry. Clinical evaluation. The importance of clinical evaluation is stressed in the directive at many places. So it is a set of ongoing activities that use scientifically sound methods for the assessment and analysis of clinical data to verify the safety, clinical performance, and or effectiveness of the medical device when used as intended by the manufacturer. So this is important, and this is the main principle in which the clinical evaluation need to be done. So when placing a device on the market, manufacturer must have demonstrated through the use of appropriate conformity assessment procedures that the medical device complies with essential principles and safety and performance of devices. So this is what the requirement which is there into the regulation as well. So any claims made about the medical device safety, clinical performance, and or effectiveness should be supported by suitable evidence. So that is, the evidence is through your clinical evaluation reports. So the other thing is on further continuous monitoring of the clinical performance of the device. So manufacturer should periodically review performance, safety, and the risk-benefit assessment for the medical device through clinical evaluation. So this is where the post-market surveillance and post-market clinical follow-up things come up. So method of clinical evaluation, a critical evaluation of relevant scientific literature currently available, critical evaluation of results of clinical investigation, consideration of currently available alternate treatment options for that purpose, if any. So you'll have to consider these things while you are preparing your clinical evaluation. So the guidance, MED guidance 2.7.1 revision 4 for clinical evaluation, it is been published considering the requirements of MDR as well. So it covers many aspects of the requirements from MDR in terms of the expectations on clinical evaluation and post-market clinical monitoring. Conformity assessment procedures. There are various, depending on the classification of the product, the conformity assessment procedures are given in Annex 9 to Annex 9, 10 and 11 of the directive. So if you look at the classification, depending on the classification, there are various annex routes which can be followed. So class 1, that is self-certification class 1, you need to demonstrate compliance to Annex 2 and Annex 3. Annex 2 is on technical file, Annex 3 is on post-market surveillance. So class 1 sterile, class 1 measuring and class 1 reusable, you need to have a compliance to Annex 2 and Annex 3, and notified body involvement will be there, which will be limited to sterile or measuring or a reusable function of the product, reusable feature of the product. So you need to adopt Annex 9, Chapter 1 and 3 for the QMS, or you can go for Annex 11, Part A, that is production quality assurance. So either of this can be adopted. Class 2A, so again Annex 9, Chapter 1 and 3, and Section 4, full QMS and technical file for representative device for each category. And of course, Annex 2 and 3 are common, you need to demonstrate for all. The other alternate means are Annex 9, Section 10, that is production quality assurance, and product verification methods are also to be demonstrated. Class 2B, these are all the assessment, conformity assessment routes that are available. And Class 3, it is full type examination which will be there. And for Class 2B, there is a category Class 2B implantable device. Mostly the orthopedic implants which comes under Class 2B. So those things are all Class 2B implantable devices. Though it is put as Class 2B implantable, the requirements are more or less same, the assessment method and all are more or less same as the Class 3 product. So that is with respect to a brief overview in terms of European Union MDR. So we just briefly touched upon in terms of the significant differences what it had in terms of the structure of the directive, in terms of the changes in the essential requirement that is renamed as general safety and performance requirements, GSPR requirements, and critical key changes in terms of the labeling and instructions for use, contents of technical file, what it is expected, and in terms of classification, what are all the significant changes which has come up in the classification, and what are all the conformity assessment routes based on the classification which are available to adopt and demonstrate compliance. So that is what we touched upon very briefly about the European Union MDR requirements. Now moving on to MDSAP. So MDSAP, here we will be touching upon very briefly and what is this whole MDSAP program is all about, and who are all the regulatory members participating in the MDSAP program, how it is benefiting them, and as well as how it is benefiting the manufacturers. That is what we will briefly touch upon. So medical device single audit program, that is the expansion of MDSAP, and it is again international collaboration with various regulatory authorities. So the MDSAP members are Australia, Canada, Brazil, Japan, and US. So these 5 are members, and there are new members, new affiliate members who have joined pretty recently is Argentina and Korea. So these 2 have joined into this program as an affiliate members, and there are official observers, WHO for pre-qualification in IVD program, and EU is also an official observer. They are not into the MDSAP program, they are just an official observer into the MDSAP program. So how this program was devised is, these regulatory, majorly these 5 regulatory bodies, they shared the common requirements in terms of what it is, in terms of their regulation, and then wanted to come up with a common audit program which will help the manufacturers and also which will help the regulators as such. So how it works is, so the regulatory authorities assess and recognize the auditing organizations. Auditing organizations are third-party certification bodies like DQS. And there are multiple other certifying bodies also has been qualified as recognized as auditing organizations. So these auditing organizations perform the audits for the manufacturers under this MDSAP program, audit them and provide certificate to the medical device manufacturers. And these auditing organizations also provide those details of audits, reports, and the audit outcomes to the regulatory authorities. Regulatory authorities also keep a tab on the medical device manufacturers in terms of market authorizations. The market authorizations on the product level, it is directly done by the regulatory authorities. The MDSAP program does not cover the product level licensing or product level approvals, right? So that is directly by the regulatory authorities, and also regulatory authorities keep a tab in terms of the post-market events which are happening. And based on those requirements, they may decide whether they need to come and do an inspection or an audit at the manufacturer facility. So what is the benefits for manufacturers in terms of participating to MDSAP? So it reduces the overall number of audits or inspections. That is the first advantage. So just imagine if you are a manufacturer having products to sell at all these 5 geographies, there is a possibility that you will have audit under CMD, Health Canada requirements. You will have an audit. You may have an inspection. You may have an inspection from US FDA. You may have an inspection from audit from Brazil ANVISA. For JPAL through a third party, you may have an audit. So it will keep on going, number of audits, right? So that is where you will get benefit in terms of minimizing the number of audits. So once you can minimize that, obviously you can optimize your resource utilization, right? So it will enhance your own confidence in terms of compliance. That is one big advantage which you will have. So just to give a gist, US FDA, the number of inspection done by US FDA has come down once this MDSAP program has been rolled out and been fully effective. So if you look at till as on 2019 August, if you look at the number of FDA inspections have come down, and the number of MDSAP audits have been constantly been. If you look at from 2017 to 2018 itself, there is a drop, and then the number of MDSAP has gone up. So that is an advantage which the regulator also see to keep tab in terms of the manufacturers and monitoring and effective compliance. How these regulators are using these MDSAP audit reports and certificates. So TGA, that is the regulator for regulatory authority for Australia, they use this MDSAP audit report as a part of evidence that help to determine compliance with Australian medical device market registration requirements. So when you have to register a product into Australia, so having an MDSAP report and a certificate is an added advantage, though it is not mandatory, preferred. It is not mandated, it is preferred. Brazil, same, ANVISA will use the MDSAP audit report and other components of the audit program input on pre-market and post-market medical device evaluations. So Brazil is a big beneficiary of MDSAP program. The reason is they had a long list of pending ANVISA inspections or audits to be completed. So Once this came up and they are part of it, that's a big relief for them in terms of clearing up that queue, and many manufacturers have also benefited out of this. Health Canada, it will use an MDSAP audit as a part of their Canadian Device Conformity Assessment Program. So it was mandatory, and I see that they have also not made it mandatory now, but it is a requirement what they have put in. Japan Pharmaceutical, that is PMDA, is the and the Ministry of Health is the regulator there. Uses this report as an experimental model, but they are into the full member now, to exclude a manufacturing site from an on-site inspection. So based on this, they may exclude the manufacturing site audit. US FDA, this accepts the MDSAP audit reports as a substitute for FDA routine inspections. But for cause inspection, in case of significant issues, market issues are there, or if there is a for cause inspection or a compliance follow-up inspection need to be there, that will be done by FDA directly, and it will not be through MDSAP program. So this is what the basic rule in terms of Australia. So the overall, the methodology will remain the same if you look at be it Europe or be it any other regulated market. Classify your device, have local representation, submit compliance evidence for the product, have the post-market system in place, have your quality system in, incorporating the regulatory requirements, and then maintain your registration for your registration or the approval for the product. So this is the basic steps which will be there in terms of any regulatory. Can everybody put the microphone on mute, please? Thank you. So this is the basic steps which is involved in terms of any regulation if you look at. So for TGA, there is a different schedule which is there in terms of classification. So you classify that based on that, and then use MDSAP to incorporate the regulatory requirements within your quality management system. Have the MDSAP assessment, and also submit your product dossier for approval. And then once it is approved, you are free to sell the product in Australia. So the prerequisite, again, you need to have an Australian sponsor who will facilitate your registration, and also license between the manufacturer and the regulator. So that is important to have. Brazil, again, the same way, do the classification of the device and appoint a registration holder who will be your representative in there in Brazil. Complete the testing of the device with certified labs. So Brazil, you need to complete the testing only with the certified labs by Brazilian regulatory authorities, and then demonstrate compliance by use of your technical files. Have those technical dossiers submitted, and submit the application, and then you have your product registered there. So in order to incorporate the requirements of Brazilian ANVISA, so those regulations are under MDSAP program now. So you can use MDSAP in terms of demonstrating compliance to those requirements from a quality system perspective, in terms of demonstrating those regulatory requirements. So mainly these regulatory requirements, all these 5 geographies, if you look at how you integrate those requirements into your quality system. So these things mainly comes in terms of your management responsibility, in terms of having appropriate resources, in terms of having appropriate representation in the regulated markets by means of authorization holder or a sponsor or authorized representative. The terminology may vary, but the concept remains the same in terms of having a local representation, how that responsibility authority have been given, and having appropriate resources, competent resource in terms of demonstrating compliance to the regulatory requirements, identifying the regulatory needs in terms of those markets, bringing it into your quality system, and then taking it into as a part of your product requirements, right from considering from your design stage. Then when it comes to supplier control and traction, your labeling requirements depending on those things. And most of these, all these regulations have a common philosophy in terms of a post-market activities. You need to monitor your device performance on the market once it is going out of your facility. Whether the device is performing as intended, was there any significant issues? If there are issues in terms of things, various regulations have different timelines to report to the regulatory authorities and the content of those reports. So all these are all the basic fundamental requirements in terms of all these regulations. And you need to incorporate into your quality system applying to those, applying these regulatory requirements. So that is the basic fundamental things which you need to look at. Canadian regulation, you need to have your product license there. So you need to have establishment license and then also your product license. So you need to have these things applied. Same again, classify, submit, get your license. So in order to do that, you need to also provide along with your MDSAP certificate. Similar to Brazil and Australia, you have things for Japan. Japan, there is a market authorization holder who is located in Japan. So you need to have, this person will control your device registration, and you will be a foreign manufacturer's registrations form you need to provide. Implement the QMS as per the requirements, and then you will have the assessment and complete the product approval process. So US FDA, I think this is the most familiar thing which I would say, US FDA. So you need to incorporate within your quality system the quality system regulations of the US FDA, that is 21 CFR 820. That is your quality management system requirements. And you need to submit a pre-market notification or a pre-market approval depending on the classification of the device. You need to submit for the device approval. So once that is approved, then you are free to place the product into the US market. Again, there is a requirements in terms of various post-market activities. So which goes with a similar principle in terms of monitoring the device performance in case of event, reporting requirements, and further follow-up activities in terms of recalls or whatever it is. So that is all it related to MDSAP. Brief touch upon on Indian medical device regulation. So you all know Indian Medical Device Rules 2017. This has been published, and here also we have classification of device. So here we call it as class A, B, C, D: low risk, low, moderate, moderate, high risk, and high risk. So this is how the classification. And QMS requirements, you need to demonstrate compliance. So there is a different schedule which is there as a part of MDR 2017. And manufacturer need to submit license application. So depending on the class of the product, where you will submit will vary, and the method of assessment also will vary. Class A or Class B device, you make the application to the state licensing authority, and if it is Class C or Class C device, it is done to the central licensing authority. And the assessment will be through a notified body for Class C and Class C. Here also there is a method of using third party and grant a license. And for Class D, it will be a joint assessment including the members of the regulators. Once the license is issued, it is valid for 5 years. So as a manufacturer, what you need to do in terms of complying to Indian medical device rules is comply with the quality requirement, quality management system requirements, which is there in Schedule 5. You need to have competent technical staff. So they have specified the requirements related to the skill and experience of the staff, which you need to have. That is what, and you need to incorporate that Schedule 5 as a part of your quality management system. Overall, how the certification process, be it any certification, how it works is, as a certification body, collect the information and then have the contractual arrangement with you. And then there is a stage 1 audit, stage 2 surveillance audit to maintain the certificate, and recertification audit. So in terms of CE marking, there will be an additional stage which will be called as a technical file assessment. So which will also happen before the stage 1 or a stage 2 audit, where the file assessment need to be complete before a grant of a certificate. So these are all some useful links where you can find more information specific to MDSAP and for MDR requirements. So that's it all I had to share with you, and thanks for your attention.